Hello guys, welcome back to Nita Crochets. My name is Anita. Today we are going to be making this beautiful skirt from a stitch pattern that I recently shared. I hope most of you have gotten to watch it. I really loved making this skirt because first of all the stitch pattern is very easy. It's just a one-step repeat and I just literally was playing around. My intention was to make a maxi skirt, but I really didn't find time on me to just finish it all the way down. But yes, it's an idea you can carry on for your project. You can either make it a maxi skirt or mini skirt or even just make a blanket lull. But yes, this is the ripple V stitch pattern. I already have my panel complete. I have already worked it all the way down. All right, and I'll be sharing how many rows I have worked to get this kind of length that I have for my skirt. But yes, this is how it looks like. I already worked a tutorial for this stitch, so just in case I am running through it very fast, okay, you can refer to my video for the stitch pattern where I was slower and explained the stitch very well. Okay, so I'm just going to rush through because I know most of you are really lazy to go down into my tutorials and find the stitch pattern or the video that you need to watch for this stitch pattern before starting this skirt. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit fast so we cannot have a lengthy video. Okay, now let's get started on what we need and how to start working our skirt. First of all, I'm going to be working with size 2 yarn. It's acrylic, 100 grams, 50 grams, and it's size 2, so I'm going to be doubling my strands. Then lastly, I'm going to be working with a 4.5mm hook. My nails are not that good, so just don't mind them. I just haven't really found time to go and work on them, but let's get started. All right, so we are going to grab our yarn and we are going to work a slip knot. Okay, now before I tell you how many number of chains that you need to work, this stitch pattern works in sets of 14 or multiples of 14. All right, so for whichever number of sets that you want or multiples that you need for your project, for whichever purpose you are working this for, please make sure that you're working in sets of 14 plus 4 chains at the end. Okay, for example, I'm going to be working 2 sets of 14 stitches, which makes it 28 stitches. Then I will add 4 extra chains at the end, which will make it a total of 32. Now, when I was working my panel that I showed you when starting this tutorial, I worked 10 sets of 14, which is 140 chain stitches. All right, then I added 4 extra chains to make it 144. That's what you need to do. Now, once you have the number of chains that you need for your project or for whichever purpose that you need this for, you are going to get into the second chain stitch from the hook and work a single crochet. Then I will have to work 1 single crochet into every stitch or chain stitch until I get to the end of my row. All right, so since I had 32 chain stitches, I'm going to end up with 32 stitches. Why? Because I worked my single crochet into the second chain stitch from the hook. I hope that is clear for you. And I'm working single crochets because I just need to secure my foundation chains before I get started on the stitch pattern. All right, so work 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way until you get to the end of the row, and that's where I'm going to meet you, then show you how to start or get started on our stitch pattern. So let me meet you there. Here it is. I have finished working into every stitch and I've worked a single crochet into every stitch. So we are going to get started on our stitch pattern. All right, first of all, we are going to chain 3 and change our work or turn our work. The 3 chains act as a stitch, so that means I will skip the very first stitch and skip the second, and into the third I will work a double crochet. Now this is going to act like an inverted V. All right, then I'm going to skip 2 stitches. Into the next stitch I'm going to work a double crochet, chain 1, work a double crochet once again into that very same stitch. Now this is a V stitch. All right, Then what's going to happen is I'm going to skip 2 once again, and into the next stitch I'm going to work a double crochet, chain 1, work a double crochet once again into that very same stitch. Now this is more like my peak, or the peak of my ripple. So in there once again I'm going to chain 1, work a double crochet into that very same stitch, and then chain 1, work another double crochet into that very same stitch. Okay, so in this way we have more like created 3 V stitches. All right, now we shall skip 2 stitches and work a double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, into that very same stitch we work a double crochet. Okay, then yarn over, skip 2 stitches, into the next stitch I am going to work an incomplete double crochet just like that, then yarn over, skip 1, get into the next stitch and then work an incomplete double crochet. Then here I will yarn over and pull through all 3 loops that are on my hook. In that way I have worked an inverted V, because that is my low, or that more like the down of my ripple. And now I'm going to skip 2, get into the next stitch and work a double crochet, chain 1, work a double crochet once again into that very same stitch. Okay, yarn over, skip 2 stitches, get into the next stitch. Now this is the up of my ripple, so I'm going to work a double crochet in there just like we did right there. So I'll chain 1, work another double crochet in there. Now those are 2. Again, chain 1, work another double crochet into that very same stitch. That makes it 3 double crochets now. Okay, then once again you chain 1 and work your 4th double crochet all in that very same stitch right there. So that is the up of my ripple. Now we are going down once again. So what happens is still I'm going to yarn over, skip 2 stitches, and into the next stitch I'm going to work a double crochet, then chain 1 and work a double crochet once again into that very same stitch. So basically we are having 1 V stitch before an up or peak of the ripple, and then 1 V stitch before the down, or like, I don't know, the value of our ripple. Now here we are going to skip 2 stitches, into the next stitch you work an incomplete double crochet, then skip 1, into the very last stitch we work an incomplete double crochet. Get in there, for me it is a little tricky, but yeah, get in there, work an incomplete double crochet just like that, then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So that is our inverted V. So basically the inverted V takes us down the valley, and then the 4 double crochets that we work all into the very same stitch are more like the peaks or the heel of our ripple. Okay, so now that is how this works, and this is exactly what we are going to keep repeating, the valleys and the heels of the ripple and everything. It's exactly what we are going to just keep repeating, but I'm going to repeat this with you guys several times, at least for 4 rows, before I know that you have really mastered this. Okay, so for the next row we are going to chain 3 and turn our work. Remember the 3 chains act as a stitch, which would be that one, so I skip the next, and into the next V is where I work my double crochet. So this would more like be an inverted V. Now yarn over, skip the next 2 stitches and get into the next stitch and work your double crochet, chain 1, work a double crochet once again into that very same stitch. Okay, now here we are going to skip 1, okay, because we have finished the down or the valley, which is the inverted V, then the V stitch that should be after that one before we work our peak. Now here we are working our peak. Okay, you can see it's at the center, okay, of the 4 double crochets. So here we work our double crochet, chain 1, work your 2nd double crochet, chain 1, work your 3rd double crochet, then chain 1, work your 4th double crochet all into that very same stitch. The next thing you do is you're going to skip 1 stitch. All right, yarn over, skip 1 stitch right there into that next stitch, you work a double crochet, and then chain 1, work a double crochet once again into that very same stitch. Now next I'm going to skip these 2 stitches right here and get into that next stitch, which would be the center of that V. I'll work an incomplete double crochet and then skip that 1 to the inverted V, and then get into the center of the next V after the inverted V, and there you will yarn over, work an incomplete double crochet, and then pull through all 3 loops. So in this way we have created an inverted V into the V stitches that are close to the previous inverted V right there. I hope I am clear. Okay, now next is we skip these 2 stitches and get into the next stitch and work our V stitch, which will be a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in that very same stitch. Then next we are going to work our up, which is the peak. So we skip 1 and into the next stitch we work a double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet, again you chain 1, work 1 double crochet into that very same stitch. So those are 3. Those would be 3. Okay, then chain 1, work your 4th double crochet in there. All right, so you see now this is the peak right here, and it's exactly what we have done for this as well. Okay, now we skip 1, get into the next stitch right there and work your double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, which would be the V after your peak. Now that means if we have the V after peak, we are going all the way down the valley, and that means we are going to skip 2 stitches, get into the next stitch, work an incomplete double crochet, yarn over, skip would be 3, and get into that very last V, the inverted V that we previously worked when starting the row. You work an incomplete double crochet, then pull through all 3 loops, which would be like 2 double crochets together. Okay, now for the next row there is nothing we are going to change about this. We chain 3, turn our work. If you see closely, like I said here, you skip 2 stitches and get into the next stitch and work a double crochet. Okay, skip 2, get into the next stitch and work a double crochet, chain 1, work a double crochet once again into that very same stitch. So that means if we have a V, now we are going to have our peak. Okay, next, so we skip 1, into the next stitch we work a double crochet, then work another, chain 1, work a double crochet into that very same stitch, chain 1 once again, work another double crochet, and chain 1, work your 4th double crochet, all in that very same stitch. Then skip 2, skip 1, work a double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet into that very same stitch, which is after the stitch you have skipped. Now the next thing is we are going to skip 2 stitches. Okay, get into that V right there, work an incomplete double crochet, and then skip the inverted V right there, then the stitch next to it, and get into that V and work your incomplete double crochet, and then work 2 double crochets together. Okay, now I'm continuing my row. Okay, so as you can see, we have to skip 2 stitches. So into that V stitch we work a V stitch. Like I said, we need to have 1 V stitch before our up or peak of our ripple, and then 1 V stitch before our value of the ripple. All right, so once you have finished working your V into that V stitch, you are going to skip 1 and get into the next stitch and work a double crochet, chain 1, work a double crochet once again into that very same stitch, chain 1. Okay, so you see that with the 4 double crochets that we work all in this very same stitch, you find that we have more like created 3 V stitches, and those 3 V stitches we always have our peak of the ripple in the center V stitch. All right, so moving forward, you skip 1 and then work 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet all into the next stitch. Then here you will skip those 2 stitches and get in there, work an incomplete double crochet, yarn over, skip the next 2 and work an incomplete double crochet, then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So yes, this is what you keep doing. You just keep repeating the very same thing I have showed you for every row and every row until you have, worked your skirt until your desired length. Okay, so you just keep doing this until you have the length of the skirt that you desire. I personally work 28 rows for my skirt, okay, because I wanted it like short, and for the size I was working for, this is a size medium, because I was in position to cover a hip width of 40 inches, so it can stretch out to 40, 42 and maximally 43 inches of the waistline. So if you're working for a size small, I believe you should be working less, maybe like 8 sets of 14 foundation chains when starting your skirt. And if you're working for a size large, it should be more than 140 chain stitches or sets of 14. Now moving on to the fringe, the edges or the colors, I was working 2 rows for every color. So if you're working something similar to mine and you're working with several colors, it's up to you. You can either work 1 row per color or 2 rows per color like I did, or 3 rows per color. It's all up to you. But then what happens for me, when I was changing my colors, I left the yarn ends on every row that I was starting to change that color. I left my yarn ends there because I wanted to have some sort of fringes on my edge or seam line, and also at the edge of the slit. Okay, but if you don't want the fringes along the seam line and the slit, then you can weave in the ends of your yarn when you're changing those colors, or you can cut the ends off so that you have a clean edge, to have more like a skirt without fringes or a seam line without any fringes on it. But if you're looking for a design just as mine, then you are not going to need to cut your yarn ends after changing colors or after attaching a new color of yarn. So that's how it is, and that's what you need to know about making your panel for this skirt. So next thing is I am going to be joining the panel or working a seam line and showing you how we have the waistline and a full skirt made from this very same stitch pattern. Okay, so work your rows until you have the length that you desire for your skirt, and then I'm going to meet you right after you have that and show you how to create the skirt. So yeah, this is how your panel should look like. Okay, but it's also up to you. You can choose to have it lengthy, like more rows from here going all the way down. That is also up to you. If you're looking for a maxi skirt would really be good. Okay, something you can wear to anywhere. Let me say. And if you feel like there are holes in here, you can also just line it. Also, the seam line or the slit will be up to you. The length that you desire is exactly what you work. Okay, now we are just going to fold our panel so that we start working along the edge to like create a seam line up to where we want our slit to begin from going down. So what I am going to do, I mistakenly cut my yarn. You didn't have to cut yours. If you did, you didn't have to cut yours. So what we do is we insert our hook into the very first stitch and pull through yarn, and then work a chain. Then once again into that very same stitch, we are going to work a single crochet, just like that. Now working my seam is going to be very simple. First, since I have these yarn ends that are popping, I'm going to ensure that I fold them to the inside, because what looks like the inside right now is actually the outside, because we are working our seam on the inside, so that when we turn it in out, these fringes should be on the outside. Okay, so I'm going to make sure they are all right there inside that fold right there. Okay, that's if you are working a skirt that you want to have fringes along the seam line and the slit. Okay, but if you don't have these fringes on, then you're good to go. You're just going to work your seam line and that is it. Okay, now once all the fringes are now where they should be, I'm going to place this right here. Oh, I remembered that I need a slit, so basically I don't have to start at the bottom of the skirt. Instead I have to start my seam line midway the skirt from where I need my slit to to start from. Here from where I need my slit to start from is exactly where I need to get started with. So you will have to cut your yarn. If you hadn't cut your yarn initially, you'll have to cut your yarn and weave in your end, then get to midway your work where you feel this is where you want your slit to start from. Then insert your hook in there. All right, get your yarn, because now we are going to sew all the way going up to the waistline, leaving this end to be open for our slit. But if you don't want a slit, then you will have to start from the bottom where I was, and then join these ends together all the way going up to the waistline. So for me, from here, I'm going to pull through my yarn and chain one. I will work a single crochet in there. Then what happens is for every double crochet post, I'm going to be working 2 single crochets. Okay, so I'm just going to be working 2 single crochets into every double crochet post of both ends. Okay, just make sure that double crochet post is exactly the same double crochet post on the other end and the very same color. Then work 2 single crochets in there. So yes, basically that's what you keep doing. Just work 2 single crochets into every double crochet post all the way going up to your waistline. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you work the 2 single crochets in the very same spot just like I am doing. It's okay for as long as you make sure that every double crochet post has 2 single crochets. Now do this and I'll meet you once you are at the top of your work. Okay, I have finished working my my seam line, and this is how it looks like on the inside, and this is how it looks like on the outside. It looks perfect for me. My yarn ends on the outside. Like I said, I intend to have fringes. Now what is next is we are going to be working our waistline. Okay, I intend to have a drawstring that is going to tie to the back, so that on the front it looks like there is no drawstring in the skirt, but then it's going to be there at the back. So I am starting to work my waist and make sure that I have room for that drawstring. And starting from exactly where your seam line ended, that's where we are going to resume this from. I'm just going to get my my hook and insert it into that very last loop I had from my seam line, and into that very same spot I'm going to work a single crochet. Now what happens here, we are going to be working 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. Okay, for the number of stitches that you worked, you're just going to make sure that you have 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around your waistline until you get to the end of your row and work a slip stitch. Okay, so it's going to really appear like these are so many stitches. It will appear like these are so many stitches, but yes, the waistline may look wide, and that's the importance of a drawstring. It's going to look a little bit wide initially, but that's okay. That drawstring will actually get it to fit just perfectly, because remember we took measurements for our hips. Okay, so do this all the way around, and I'm going to get back once you're here. This is how it should look like. I have come to the end of my first row for the waistline, and this is how it looks like. Okay, it looks scrunchy, but yeah, that's all okay. So don't worry about the folding and everything. It's all okay. All right, now what's going to happen is we are going to be working now a few rows of double crochets, particularly double crochets, so that our waistline can get some sort of gauge. So from here we are going to chain 2 and turn our work. Remember that we are working double crochets for this row. So basically once we chain 2 and turn our work, we are going to be working 1 double crochet into every stitch all the way around until we get to the end of our row. Okay, so just continue working 1 double crochet into every stitch all the way around, and once you get to the end of your row, you're going to work a slip stitch. Okay, and that slip stitch is worked into the second chain stitch of the 2 chains that started the row. All right, so I'm going to do the very same thing for the next row as well. Okay, just working double crochets into every stitch all the way around, and then working a slip stitch into the second chain stitch that started the row. So you do this all the way around, even for the next row, and I'm going to meet you after that once you have 2 rows of double crochets, then show you what to do. So here it is. I have finished working all the way around for 2 rows of just double crochets, and you can see this is how my work looks like. My waistline looks a little bit scrunchy, but that's very okay, so don't really worry about it. All right, so this is how it looks like, and now I am going to be working a row of just a mesh stitch, just so that I make room for my drawstring before I get started on working my very last row of my waistline. So what's going to happen here is I am going to get my hook into that loop, and I am going to chain 3 and turn my work. Now those 3 chains, 2 of the chains are going to act as a half double crochet stitch, and then the 1 chain is going to be for the chain gap. All right, so chain 3, turn your work. Since 2 of the chains act as a stitch, that means we are going to skip the very first stitch and then skip the second, then into the 3rd stitch right there we work a half double crochet, just like that. Then chain 1, skip 1, work 1 half double crochet into the next stitch. Okay, chain 1, skip 1, work a half double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, work 1 half double crochet into the next stitch as well. So you're just going to keep doing this all the way around for every stitch, all the way around until you get to until you have 1 stitch left to end your row, and there you will chain 1 and skip it, then work a slip stitch into the second chain stitch of the 3 chains that started this row. Okay, so I'm going to let you go all the way around, and I'm going to meet you at the end of your row, then show you how to work the next row. And here we are. This is how my work looks like. Okay, as you can see, I worked my slip stitch into the second chain stitch of the 3 chains that started the previous row. Now for the final row, I'm going to be working shells on top of my mesh stitch. So I will chain 1 and get into the second chain gap. Okay, so that means I skip the very first chain gap. I'll get into the second chain gap, and in there I'm going to work 4 single crochet stitches, all in that very same chain gap. Okay, and once I have that, I'll get into the next chain gap and work a slip stitch. Once again, once you have that slip stitch done, you're going to get into the next chain gap, work 4 single crochets, then into the next chain gap you work a slip stitch. You see that? Work 4 single crochets into the next chain gap. Okay, and then work a slip stitch in the next chain gap. Okay, so that means you're skipping one stitch. So I'm going to let you do this all the way around for every chain gap that we have on our previous row. You just keep working your shells like this all the way until the end, and once at the end you work a slip stitch and cut your yarn, weave in your ends. All right, so this is how your work should look like. Okay, so just keep doing this. I'll meet you at the end of your row. Okay, so here we are. I have come to the end of my row. That's how my waistline looks like. I've cut my yarn. I will weave in my ends later, but yes, that's how it should look like. Now over here I have my fringes that I already cut to a length that I really want for my fringes. And now I'm going to show you how to attach your fringes along the hem. So you get a few strands of yarn given the thickness you want for your fringes, and you look for that very color that you have of that, the color that looks as similar as the one for the fringes, and you just find that double crochet post of it right there, pull through that loop of fringes, and then get that, the yarn ends through that loop. All right, so that's how you attach your fringes along the hem. So I'm going to go through it once again because I'm putting these fringes into every double crochet post. Okay, now these are the double crochet posts along the hem. So I am taking the double crochet post of both ends, you see that, and putting my fringe. Now when it gets down to putting the fringes along the slit, okay, I'm going to put on both sides of my slit, because in that way the seam line is split, so that means I have both sides to put my fringes at. So let's move on all the way down here and I show you what to do. So as you can see, there is this cream color right here. So I'm going to take my strands of yarn just like that, just enough for the thickness that you desire. For uniformity, you can count the number of strands of yarn that you have for every fringe, so that you carry it on for every fringe that you're going to be putting on your work. So you get into that double crochet post right there and put your fringes just like that. Okay, now get into the next double crochet post, which is that one, and also put your fringes once again. And this is the very same thing you do on the other side for that very same color on the other side of your slit. Okay, I have a little kid, she's 9 months, and she keeps disturbing me. I always work my tutorials with her. Just in case you are new to watching my videos, I always work or voice my tutorials with her, and she always disturbs me. I have no way to run away from her, but at least I make sure you can hear me clearly and you can see what I am doing clearly. All right, so yeah, we go on to the other side as well, and we do the very same thing we have done on this side of our slit. Okay, so basically the fringes are going to be running along the seam line all the way down to the edges of our slit. Okay, so that's what you are going to do for every color that we have worked with, and in that way our yarn ends that we left unweaved in are going to literally just blend in with the fringes. So what you will do is, after you have all your all your fringes attached along the seam line and the edges of our slit, all right, you will now trim them to a length that you really desire. Okay, and once you have that, only thing left is adding your drawstring to the waistline, and then we have our skirt complete. So when putting your drawstring, just make sure that you start from the back, because I want it to tie to the back. All right, and after you have put all your fringes and your drawstring, this is how it should look like. And there you have it, you have your skirt complete. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out my YouTube for more videos of this kind. I'll see you all next time that we have a tutorial. Goodbye.